Another busy day, PCQIs. Here we go. Oh, so we got somebody calling. Put it on speaker. PCQI, how may I help you?
Hello, PCQI. I need you to do a mock recall and a traceability exercise. Thank you.
Copy that. Thank you. Here we go again. Have you received those calls? Traceability and mock recall exercise. It's gonna be fun. Let's do this. Here we go again. Okay, PCQI, in this topic, we just received a phone call from senior management saying, basically giving us instruction to perform a mock recall traceability exercise. Okay, first and foremost, what is a mock recall and a traceability exercise? What is the difference between the two? So at this point, you just got a phone call and you don't know which one you're gonna perform. You are looking at your templates or your forms that's been prepared by you, by either our company or someone else's, and now you're gonna have a lot of questions and anxiety of how to perform this. So first things first, let's talk about traceability. So by definition, like if you can Google this, it's all the information on traceability, but this is my interpretation based on my PCQI experience. Traceability follows the food product or materials through all stages of production, processing, and distribution. So that's the most basic definition of traceability. Now, on the other hand, a mock recall exercise is the rigorous documented tracking of recalling the product or materials from commerce. It is a test of your ability to remove the unsafe food or materials from the market prior to reaching the consumer. Okay, so you have a mock exercise and a traceability exercise. Okay, now we're gonna go over those two types as we talk about them in this series. Okay, the title is gonna be BOM, which stands for Bill of Material Traceability. Okay, so this is part of our mock recall versus traceability series on our videos. So on this part of it is we're gonna look at, so the title or the topic on this one is the traceability form that you're going to be using. So I'm going to actually go over what your form should look like or what type of information you're going to need on your traceability exercise form. Now, the particular form that I've created and our team also process, we call it Bill of Material Traceability, because this particular traceability exercise actually based on your bill of materials, right? Go from the back to the front, right? So anyway, so in this form, we're looking at the product traceability that's going to be, that you're going to have a conducted by section. So this is very important. So whoever is conducting this, assuming it's the PCQI or somebody from production or somebody from QA or somebody from purchasing and whatnot, whoever that's designated person, you wanted to identify them here. It has to be signed by them. Okay, so we know the title of that particular person, the date it was performed, and the start time and end time. Typically, auditor likes to see this performed under 2 hours. Now, I've seen it done in 15 minutes based on your system if you have an automated system or you're still using Excel, and you know, not all of us are automated or digitized and have all those collaborative software. If you do need help on that, kind of let us know as well. Okay, so then on this traceability exercise, you're going to be looking at obviously you need the product name and the product code, so make sure that's part of your form. The manufactured by, the lot number, manufactured date, manufactured for, the batch number. If you're using lot number / batch number, just make sure you fix that on your form. and the total quantities for that material that's been produced. Now in this section, I've included a product label reference. So some of our clients, they have photos of all their labels, so they kind of they're gonna know what they're recalling, or an actual label from the label room. I've also included in this form a product label reference where you can affix a sample label, or if you have a photo of the label, that you can affix it in this section so you know what you're recalling. Now, the next part of the form is product details. So the product information, it's going to go to this section where you're going to have a description of the product. You got the product name, what is it, right? The item number. Now, some of you use item numbers for your products, so you're going to put that on there. UPC code or GTIN number. This is why you need the label reference, so you can completely cover those. It was manufactured for example, if you are providing this for a food service, or if it's manufactured for a particular customer, if it's a private label and things like that, you're going to need to fill that out. Or if it's manufactured for you as your own brand, you're going to put it there, and it's not contracted to somebody else. Okay. Product unit weight, this is where you're going to enter the unit weight of that material, the packaging dimension, pack size information, and the pack count, batch size and quantity. So if you made multiple batches, this is where you're going to need that information for each batch that you made. Or if you have a complete lot, then you're going to put that quantity here. The shelf life declaration. So if it's 3 months, 6 months, weeks, you're going to put that information here. And then you're going to have a lot number explain section where you take your lot number or batch number, whichever you're using. If you're using both, you're going to need to explain those sequences. So we've seen lot number starts with a year, for example, 23, 05, 07, or whatever the date is, and it could be B1, B2, B3. So you're going to explain what those are. Or some lot number, they also use line number, shift number, so you can actually trace within your process. So whatever your lot number sequence explanation, you're going to enter that at this section of the form. There's also a batch number there. This is for small units that you don't really have a huge lot, and you just decided to use a batch number instead. The same concept. Next section, we actually put some of the 21 CFR reference on this form, just in case if it's a regulatory exercise that you are asked to perform. So the ingredient list, which conform to 21 CFR section 101.4 subsection A subsection 1. Okay, so in the ingredient list here, this is where you're gonna put all of the ingredient list that is going to this finished product. So this is normally your declaration on that label. Remember, we had asked for you to affix it. Now that you have it, you can snip that copy or you can type it in. If you are automated and you're using some sort of a software system, this is super easy by press of a button. Okay. If not, we can build those for you. We have software development team under IT Blaster. Just let us know if we can assist you in that aspect of your process. Now, the next part of this is raw materials. Same concept of that. So you're going to actually list the raw materials. First, the description, the product code or the of the supplier that gave it to you. So you might not be using the same product code that they have. Now remember, this is traceability. So if you're working on one material on your ingredient panel that you're calling it something else, for example, let's say you just have a sugar declaration and you're using fructose, or any other O's, as I say, you're going to put that on here, and the product code and the supplier for that. Of the supplier, sorry, and the supplier name, okay? So you're going to need that as part of your traceability. And then you're going to have a section here where the component list is for this finished product. So these are outside your raw materials. What other components do you need for that finished product? Okay, so put the description, the same thing, the product code, and the supplier name. Now, if part of your process you are doing a rework or reprocessing, there's a section here, if it's applicable, that if you had incorporated rework materials in this process, you're going to need to input them, and you're going to put the description on them, and it was the manufactured by or date. We put that on there because some process we see there are rework materials from another plant that they use, which is very strange, right? But some process, it's part of their manufacturing plant next to them, and it's being used for something else. Okay, so then you're going to put the manufacturer date as well for that, and the lot number, so we can trace all of that. Next part of it is there's a section for allergen hazards. So if there is none, there's a place for it where you can check none out of it. Then if there's also a section for test date and test document number. Now some process includes that they are tested for other than allergen. For example, let's say part of this product has soy on it, but the other process that you would work with also has some other allergen that may contaminate this process. You're going to want to have that tested, okay? And some are in-house, and also some are tested by third party. So if you have that, go ahead and put that information here so we can fully trace that. Now, there's a section here for reference documents that is used with this finished product. So I'm just going to read some of those. And these are fully customizable for your intended process. So some of the things that we look for on this traceability exercise is order confirmation. So at least we know the customer that's have ordered this or going to be receiving it or have received it. Okay, so that's one part of it. Production sheets is very important. Now, some of you use MMRs or BMRs, master manufacturing records or batch manufacturing records. Whatever your forms are that you're using, you're just going to have to change this one part of it. The next part of it is receiving forms. So receiving forms are used when we're receiving the raw materials, okay? A lot of companies, they have those forms where when the materials comes in, it's all of the verification and validation process or testing requirement that's there. So you're going to have all of these information compiled on this. COAs, right? So on the COAs, you're going to have multiple part of it. Once on the raw materials, as well as the spec sheet that you receive from your suppliers, as well as your own COA for your finished product that you're giving to your customer. So you want to have a record of that as part of this traceability. We've inputted some of this is for bill of lading as well, packaging specifications, and raw material specifications, which I've mentioned earlier. Okay, so you're going to want to have these on a database and whatnot. Now, some process we have observed with our client that are not automated, they have all of these in folders. So they normally would put all of these together and just put it in one binder for this particular mock recall or traceability exercise that they are performing. Next part of the form is raw materials and component quantitative list. So in this part of it this is where you're gonna put your raw materials and your component, and you're going to list them out on, you know, the name of them. Obviously, you're going to have a column, and the quantity that you're using. So a lot of it on your formula or recipe, these are going to be in pounds or in kilos or in ounces. So depending on what you're working on with it. And then on the next column is the percentages. So obviously on that finished product, you're going to total this as 100%. So whatever your recipe says at the end, that would be the mixture. So if you're using 50% of raw material A, raw material B is 20 or 30, whatever, right? So that's going to be coming from your formulator or from your formula that you'd approve. That's going to be coming on that. The next part of it is there's a section for processing equipment. This is where you're going to define and describe your processing equipment. So if your process is a dry powder product, obviously you're going to have the section where, you know, the bags are open, you know, from basically pre-weighing all the way to your production process, your blender, mixer, packaging machine, sachet equipment, whatever that is. You're going to list them here together with the equipment ID number of those equipment. So have those ready. The reason why is in the event of a recall or a product contamination, you have a list of what the product had touched for your food contact, okay? So the next section on the forms, there's a packaging materials section where this is where you're gonna describe all of the packaging material from your primary, your secondary, tertiary packaging. So basically it's your unit, packs, case, or master case, whatever you're working with at this point. Now on the packaging materials, if you are working on products, I'll just give an example for a composite can. Obviously it's the can, but then don't forget if you're working with the scoop and also the plastic label. You need to put those in there. If it's a sachet bag, you're going to need obviously the sachet, the outer box casing, and the master pack or case pack. Okay. Same thing, product code and supplier name. Now, if you're working with weights, especially on net weights on products, I see this a lot for export because of the weight. So the tare weights are very, very important at this point. You're going to need to have those type of data, the measurement on the packaging material. So if you are, let's say you're using a can or some sort of a container and it weighs, let's say, you know, 50 ounces total, you're going to want to document that, because if you're going by weight, you need to really find out what is the net weight of the finished product, and that finished product net weight will conform to the formulation that you just declared at the 100% level, so we can fully trace all of that by weight. Okay. Now, if it's per unit, you're going to be able to do that as well as part of this form. So you have the item weight, the quantity that you use, and the total weight. Now, part of the form also has pallet details. Now, on the pallet, we want information on the pallet, if it's wood, if it's plastic, okay, any other pallet information that you need on there. The other part of that is weight, the weight of the pallet unloaded. The size and dimension of the pallet, there are different sizes. There are basic standards of pallet, so those information will come from your pallet provider. And then the product stacking dimension. So for example, if your cases or packs, you're putting 50 in a pallet, 25 and whatnot, you just put that information here. Production yield at the end. So you're going to have, this is where you do some slight calculation on the total production yield, which is the same information you're going to put on top of the form. So when you submit it to the person that requested it or to the auditor. So you're going to look at your total production yield, total raw material weight, total packaging weight or quantities that you've used, total process loss. You're going to have some process loss. So if your materials is coming in, let's say you need to make 100 kilo of products or 1,000 units of a product, you're not going to capture 100%, from your process. So there's a way to calculate process loss, okay? And then the total finished product weight or quantity at that point. So you're looking at weight and quantity on this form. Now, let me touch base on the packaging as well. So on the packaging, on the traceability, if you are ordering, I know you're ordering pallets and pallets of boxes and cartons and sachet and all of that, you need to get an account of all of those materials in your possession. Part of the traceability is what if it's a label claim that you're recalling the product, a misprint or whatnot, you're going to want to know how many of those runs have you done with that particular film or that particular packaging material. So that's part of an auditor that they're looking for. If you ordered 100,000 units and you're only producing 1,000 units, obviously you have, right? You do the math, right? So you're going to need to account for all of those steps and batches and whatnot. All right. So after this, traceability and finished product, right? So on this one, on the traceability, as an auditor, it's always been commented on the first stop, kind of stop that exercise there. So let's kind of treat it that way. So on the traceability, you're going to first look at, let's say you have a lot that's, 10,000 units and you have a distribution warehouse that it went to. So that exercise stops there at that 10,000 that you see that it went to warehouse 1. Or if you have partials that went to food service, or it went to a restaurant, or it went to Amazon, or whatever process that it went to, you need to account for those and you need to tally those up. Now, part of that is we also included address as part of this information here for that traceability, so we actually know what location it is. Because you could be working with a supermarket that has, 20, 30 distribution center around the country. You're really going to want to know which of that center it went to. Same thing, it has a total quantity or weight section, which you can customize what units that you have delivered to them. And the last section on that part is the date of the delivery. So if it was delivered on a certain date, and then later on, if you do have a mock recall, this is where you'll record the phone calls, who you talk to, letter of statement or letter of possession of how many they have or currently have, etc., etc. Okay. And then at the end, you're going to tally all of these things up on your yield total, your trace total that you traced, the percentage traced, which is your trace total and yield total. You're going to have a little bit of a math in there and how to multiply that and divide it for you to get a percentage. And you're going to then record your time allotted on this exercise, the start and end date. So as soon as that is completed, you are then now going to turn around and you're going to sign as a reviewed by, and you're going to have somebody from senior management that approved it, and you're going to put this in record along with all of the supporting documents / references that we had mentioned in the beginning of the form. Okay, so let's end it here for now. That is our bill of material traceability form. Okay, so that's based on my PCQI assessment. So hopefully that helped out with what you have. If you need assistance in preparing these type of programs or training materials, kindly let me know. info@consultairinc.com. Have a good day. Contact us. And don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Thanks again, PCQIs. Have a good one.